Hey y'all. So in this video, I'm going to review how to write a narrative essay. So this is just our anchor chart for how to write an essay that is in the narrative form. So we have learned this in class already, but it's been a few weeks, so we're going to go over it now. So a narrative essay is written to tell a story. So our prompt will say something like, imagine a time, tell a story about, things like that. So narrative writing is always storytelling. It can be a personal narrative, that's something that's happened in your life, or it can be a made up narrative. It's something that you came up with, and telling the story is all fiction. So the narrative essay format, we plan it just like we did with our other essay in 5 paragraphs. So our first paragraph is called the B paragraph. It's our beginning. So I'm going to write here on our chart B, which stands for the beginning. Okay. So our story always has a beginning. We learned this in the lower grades, when we were in kindergarten, first grade, second grade, all that. A story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. So our planning sheet will also have that. So B for beginning. I'm going to pause this. Okay, so the beginning paragraph will tell the story setting, it will tell the character in the story, and it will give an idea of what the plot will be about. So in our beginning paragraph, we can have about 5 to 7 sentences, and we want to tell the setting, characters, and the plot. Just obviously not the entire plot in the first paragraph, but introduce our plot, okay? Introduction to what the story is about. All right, so the B paragraph, like I said, will be about 5 to 7 sentences. And these sentences can vary in length. So if you found something like, I picked it up off the ground, that's a pretty short sentence, and that counts as a sentence in a narrative story. So they vary in length. You should have some longer sentences, some shorter sentences. We want to make sure we're using descriptive language as well. We don't want to just say, I was walking home, I picked up a rock that I found on the ground, and then I took it home. That's not telling a story. That's very boring. It doesn't really give us anything to imagine. So you want to describe things. Don't just say I was walking home. Maybe describe what the day was like. When was it? Remember setting. How does the story like make me imagine? Like, what are you trying to get me to imagine when you write your story? So don't just say I was walking home. You could be like, it was a Tuesday and it was raining as I walked home from school. So it gives me something else in the story. If the character is telling the story, that would be a first-person narrative. So it would say, I was walking home. But if you wanted to tell your story from a third-person narrative, you would then have an outside narrator telling about the character. So in that sense, you could say, it was a cold January morning as Felicia walked home from school. So now I know Felicia is the character in the story, and the narrator is telling you all about what Felicia is experiencing. Okay, so then we introduce our plot. So in this case, the introduction had that they were walking home from school, and something would then take place in that B paragraph that gets me intrigued, makes me want to read more. Next, we will go to our middle section. Now, the middle section of your essay is going to have 3 paragraphs, and we're going to call these paragraphs T1, T2, and T3. The T stands for things that happen in the story. So you're going to have 3 main events after your beginning, and those 3 main events should be told in order of how they happen in the story, and they should be connected to each other in such a way that it flows. So I should see separate paragraphs, but it shouldn't be choppy, like one paragraph's all about school, and the next paragraph, it doesn't tell me how she got there, but suddenly she's at the pool. Why is she at the pool? It needs to be connected ideas. So those are your 3 T's. So we have T1, T2, and T3. Okay, and so these are the 3 main things that happen in the story. Okay, so 3 main events in the story. Okay, and like I said, they should be told in order. Flow from one idea to the next. I wrote flow from each event, which is not exactly the same thing as I said, but whatever. So told in order, flow from each event, and then these things should be driving towards the main point of your story. So the first thing that happens sort of builds your action, builds on your beginning. Your second thing, maybe it gets more intense, but your third is your climax. This is your big event of the story. Okay, so each paragraph should build the action in the story. Okay, and T3 is our climax. T3 is climax or big event of story. Okay, so you resolve all of your intensity in T3. So if this is a very dramatic building story, then T3 should be where it's like, whoa, this crazy thing happened, or we solved the mystery, or we defeated the bad guy. Whatever's happening happens in T3. Finally, we get to our last paragraph, which we call the E paragraph, and it stands for the ending. Okay, so I guess we'll just, for continuity, this is beginning, this is middle, and now we have the end. Okay, so your end is your E paragraph, stands for ending. How will you end your story? Okay, so the ending has the conclusion. It wraps up your story. It tells how your character has now finished up. It gives a nice ending. It makes the reader feel satisfied. They understand what happened in the story. The action has been resolved. The bad guy's been defeated. You explain what happens to the bad guy, so they're not like, oh, you just leave him there. Maybe the main character gets to go home if they were out on an adventure, whatever. Your story needs to have a nice, satisfying ending for your reader. So that's what happens in your E paragraph. You wrap up your story with a satisfying, that's really close together, satisfying conclusion. Okay. Now, I said that the beginning needs to have 5 to 7 sentences. So for your middle paragraphs, we'll say you can range how many sentences it has from 4 to 8. Okay? So it's a pretty big range because some paragraphs might need to be a little shorter than others. 4 to 8 sentences. There. And then our ending, we'll say has 3 to 7 sentences. I know that's a wide range, but it honestly depends on your story, and I don't want to box you in and make you think that it has to end in 3 sentences or less. No, you can have more. If you need to finish telling your story, we want you to finish telling your story. I want to be satisfied when I'm done reading. Now, we want to make sure that as we write, like I said, we're using descriptive language. We want to make sure that our reader is being able to imagine what's happening in the story. We want to use action verbs. We want to use adverbs. Adverbs describe the verbs. So we'll just say he jumped. Tell me how he jumped. He jumped excitedly. Excitedly is an adverb. I want you to use adjectives. Adjectives describe nouns. So it wasn't just any old day. It wasn't just a Wednesday. It was a dreary Wednesday. It was A difficult Wednesday. Give me something that helps me imagine what you're talking about in your story. You should do the same thing for your characters, for your events, for the action. Everything should be described in a way that helps me imagine it. All right, so here is our writing narrative essays anchor chart. So we have the beginning paragraph, you set up your story. Your middle is your T1, your T2, and your T3. These are the three main things that happen in your story. The event should flow. It should be continuous action, not choppy. And then you have your end with your E paragraph, where you wrap up your story in such a way that makes your reader feel like they were satisfied with the action and understand the story is complete. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. You can rewatch this video if you need to get some clarification. You can pause it and work on your own writing as you go through. It is here for you. So I'm going to stop the recording now, and then I will post it online. So here we go.